These cables here are aiming to solve a problem that most of us face today when traveling. Tangled and messy cables. So as a content creator and a blogger, I end up needing a lot of cables when I travel. And cables get very messy, very fast when traveling. So anything that can help my cable management, I'm interested in it. So these are magnetic coiling cables from a company called Magtame. So let's jump into the review. I'm going to cover 3 different points of these cables, which is the build quality, the transfer/charging speed, and lastly, the magnetic coiling organization feature of these cables. So let's get started with the build quality. These cables actually have a really nice weight to them, which I know doesn't always mean quality, but it is a pretty good sign. So another cool thing is these are also nylon braided cables. So they're a lot stronger than your typical cable. And even underneath the nylon braid is a TPE sheath that further protects the interior cables. So these are some really strong cables, which is nice. Depending on which cable you choose to buy, you'll either get these rubberish plastic connections, or you'll get the same rubberish plastic connections, but it's covered in what I'm guessing is aluminum. So the connections do feel really strong, and I don't feel like these things are gonna break. These cables actually, Magtame says that they have a 198-pound tensile strength, which seems unnecessary. Like, I don't know why you'd need that in a cable, but I guess it's cool to know. So pulling this way, I guess it could hold up 198 pounds. I don't know why you'd need that in a cable, but there it is. So overall, the build quality of these cables, I really appreciate, and these are some of the nicest cables that I've used. I would say the build quality passes. So onto the transfer and charging speeds of these cables. So it kind of depends on which cable you get as well. But if you do really need a fast over-the-top cable, they do make a USB 3.2 C2C Thunderbolt compatible cable that can transfer data at 20 gigabytes per second transfer rate, and it can support 8K at 60 hertz and 240 watts of power. So that's just crazy. That's a crazy cable, but it still has that same magnetic coiling factor to it. So this one here, I do have a 240 watt cable, which I'm not using at the moment. Like, I'm not using it to its full capacity of 240 watts. I don't have anything that would even charge with that much wattage. However, it is nice just to have a slightly future-proofed cable. Battery technologies are always improving. Charging rates are always increasing. So this is going to be a cable that I'm going to have for years to come without needing to upgrade to a faster cable. As far as data transfer goes, I'll just admit I don't fully understand all that goes into the data transfer rates of cables. So I'm probably not the right person to ask about that. I do use some NVMe solid state drives for my photo and video editing while I travel, and I just used like the little cables that come with the drive itself. I figured these are properly rated for the drive, so I just used the ones that the drive's shipped with, and they're small enough to where they don't cause a huge issue in my bag. So all of these Magtame cables, I primarily use for charging. So these are not data transfer cables to me, but I do know that Magtame, for the majority of these ones, claims 480 megabytes per second as their transfer rate, which to me seems a little bit slow, but I do know that they have a lot faster cables too. Like that other cable I mentioned, that USB 3.2 cable that they have, that thing is super fast. So they do have ones if you're primarily using it for data transfer. But for the majority of all these ones, I use them for charging my gear, and they work perfectly. I love these cables for that. So one thing that I am typically kind of concerned with buying third-party cables is their compatibility with Apple products. Apple's pretty finicky when it comes to charging cables. Sometimes if you use the wrong cable, it won't charge your iPhone or random little things like that. Apple doesn't really like to play well with other people. But these cables, these Magtame cables, are all Apple certified, so they work flawlessly. I'm very much part of the Apple ecosystem, so I use these and they work perfectly for it. I've never had any issue with Apple products, which is necessary for me. All right, so on to the main feature of these cables, which is the magnetic coiling feature. So these recoil themselves thanks to these magnets that are inside the cable. This is probably the main reason why you're looking at these cables, and it's the reason why I got these cables too. These make it so much easier to keep your tech bag tidy and neat, so I really appreciate that. And I do wish that the magnets were maybe a little bit stronger, especially on like the C cable. The magnet, you know, it's a little weaker, so you definitely need to sit there and coil this up. But once it's coiled up, it holds its shape really well. So once you have this coiled up and you put it in your bag, it's not gonna uncoil on itself. So Magtame does make two different kinds of cables. The first here is a more traditional cable. It's round and it coils on top of itself, like in a stack. And then the C cable is a flat cable that coils around itself. So it is super flat and thin when it is rolled up, which actually, in my opinion, makes this cable the winner as far as traveling goes. These C cables are so much easier to fit in my tech bag because of how thin they are. So I honestly much prefer the C cables for my needs, which is traveling. So overall, what is my consensus with these cables? So I've been using these cables for a few months now, and I just keep getting and buying more of them. So I'm slowly changing out all of my cables to these Magtame cables just because they're so much more convenient than this giant nest of cables that I usually travel with. So I would highly recommend these to anyone looking to just organize your travel life a little bit more or organize your tech bag. I will leave a link down below if you choose to purchase these. I reached out to Magtame and became an affiliate with them, so it is an affiliate link. That just means that if you make a purchase through it, I'll get a small commission, and that really helps out the YouTube channel, so I much appreciate that. I hope you found this review helpful, and if you did, please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review.